those ears ready. It's time to make them a little more awesome. This ear training episode will be a continuation of episode 18, Harmonic Dictation. Here are your hosts, Jeremy Burns and Matthew Scott Phillips.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Jeremy.
Maybe it's time just to sit down and chill and let people kind of let their ears do the work.
Yeah, move on to some orally challenging.
It will be work.
It will be work, but hopefully not as bad. Hopefully a little more entertaining. Although some people seem to be entertained by our theory discussions. I don't know.
I think it's our brilliant execution.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go with that.
All the ums and uhs and silences on my part.
No.
That
I edited out most of those, at least 90% of them.
So all you people that think I say too much, just imagine all the ums Jeremy edited out.
Imagine that times 10.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about some harmonic dictation. What do you say?
Yes. We have already covered some of this, and I believe we got about as far as the 1 chord.
So we covered the 1, the 4, the 5, and the 2/6 chord. So we covered 1, 4, and then 5. And then the other big option you have there would be go to 1, and then 2/6, and then 5. And then 1.
Right, and as I recall, the 4 and the 2/6 chord, those are the two you kind of need to listen out for, right?
Right, one of them's minor and one of them's major. They both have this 1, scale degree 1, scale degree 4, scale degree 5, scale degree 1 in the bass.
Yeah.
Right, and one of them is just a little more minor and a little more crunchy, compelling, dramatic, maybe.
Dramatic, yeah.
Than the other one. And I think we may have mentioned at that point that one of the big reasons we even use inversions in chord progressions, like the 2/6, right, the 2 chord in first inversion. One of the main reasons we use those is to sort of create cool bass lines.
Yeah.
Right. We also use them to make sure we're not doing parallel fifths and octaves, which is why I had to switch to 1 right there in that example, right?
Uh-huh.
We also use them for that reason, and writing neat, fun, cool, melodic bass lines, are two of the big reasons inversions even a thing, right, or even used.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably good to sort of expand on that ability to hear between the 4 chord in root position and the set 2 chord in first inversion, and play with some more chords in inversions and see if we can hear those.
And more chord tones too.
And more chord tones too. We've got some of those coming up. So you want to just try some of these and see how we do?
Let's give them a heads up, just so there's no question about it. Today we will be working on the 1 chord.
The 1 chord.
The 4 chord.
The 4 chord.
The 5/7 chord.
The 5/7 chord.
We're adding that 7th to it. And then the 2/6/5 chord.
The 2/6/5 chord, which is just adding a 7th to the 2 chord. So a 2/7 chord in first inversion, which is what we call a 2/6/5.
Great.
Yeah. We've covered figured bass.
We have, and inversions, yeah. Nothing new here, guys. All
right, good. Yeah, go listen back, whatever podcast that was. Clearly I killed that brain cell. Yeah, okay. So, and, we might also talk about the different kinds of 6/4 chords.
Okay.
Because there's kind of a limited number of 6/4 chords. There's a cadential 6/4 chord, there's a passing 6/4 chord, and there's a neighbor 6/4 chord.
Hey, we just talked about non-chord tones. How appropriate.
Yes, we did, right? Yeah. All right. So let's start on something that we should be sort of passingly familiar with here. Now, with harmonic dictation, I like to start by sort of picking out what the bass line did.
Yeah, okay.
So what did that bass line do? Listen again.
Okay. It sounded to me like a 1-4-5-1.
Oh, yeah.
4-5-1.
Most basic bass line ever, right?
Love it.
Yeah. So then we listen for what the soprano line did. And this can be a little harder.
Yeah.
You know, first I would sort of determine what scale degree that was that we started on.
Okay.
Just sing down the major scale.
I thought it was a 1 when I first heard it, but it sounds actually after singing down the major scale, it's
It
a
sounds like it sounds more like something else, right?
a third because I went down to 1.
Yeah, that's me, and that's why it's important to do this. You will always think you know what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Discipline yourself to go through these steps, because you'll be surprised at how often you self-correct.
In order to trust oneself, one must learn to mistrust oneself.
Indeed. Very, very wise.
I didn't take that straight from the Tao Te Ching.
Yeah. You could have fooled me. So we're starting on scale degree 3. Right?
Okay.
And you know, sometimes if you're in an ear training class and you're having to do this on a dictation test, you might be given that note, so you may know it's scale degree 3, right?
That would be nice.
Yeah, we'll give you. But if you're listening to music, you know, of course you won't be, so it's still important to be able to pick it out.
I think it might even be more important.
Yeah. So we started on this scale degree 3, and then we kind of moved up, right, to
4?
yes.
Okay.
Not a trick question.
Not a
yes,
trick question.
We did move up to scale degree 4, and then
Same thing.
same thing. Yeah. Sometimes when the note doesn't move, that can be tricky. If you feel like you just lost it and you didn't know where it went, you know, ask yourself, well, did it move at all?
Hey.
You know, because that note. Right? So scale degree 4, beautiful little 5/7 chord here, resolving down to 3.
Okay.
Your scale degree 3.
So then just to hit it one more time, what I'm hearing from the soprano voice is
Is
3, 4, 4, 3.
yeah. And notice we've already played our first 5/7 chord.
Hey.
Yeah. The easiest one, kind of the easiest one ever. Because the 7 is in the soprano. And that's always going to resolve down to scale degree 3.
I'd say you slipped it past me, but I did notice a little funniness in there. I was like, we got something new going on here.
Yeah, we got a little something new to go. I'm a little sneaky that way. I like to slip things in with you. The big difference between, or the things that you should be thinking about in these 5/7 chords, or let's get into a different inversion so it works better. It's just got a little bit, just like you said, a little something funny. It's just a little bit crunchier. So that's a 5/7 chord. Yeah. If I play just a 5 chord, see how clear and smooth and undissonanced, which is a word because I just made it up, that is, right?
It's like creamy peanut butter compared to crunchy peanut butter.
Yeah. You know, the 5/7 chord, by contrast, got that little squishiness, crunchiness to it. Yeah. You know, the 5/7 chord I played originally, that's, like I said, the easiest one because it's in the soprano. So, you know, you're going to and you're going to have that perfect fourth between the bass and the soprano, right? And you're going to hear it move downward to that scale, degree 3. If you're good at melodic dictation, and you can, you know, and if you're confused, sing down the scale. Anytime, always works.
On a side note, would you think, and because I was thinking about this earlier, I imagine melodic dictation you would want to kind of tackle a little bit before harmonic dictation.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because there's harmonic dictation is basically a bunch of melodies occurring.
Yeah.
Within.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right. So, yes.
That's my side note.
That is your side note. And yeah, melodic dictation helps you with harmonic dictation. Harmonic dictation helps you with melodic dictation. It's all related to each other, right?
Yeah.
Theory helps you with both of these. You know, if you're in the key of G and you've managed to figure out that your bass note is D and that your top note is C, and you think, well, what chord would both of those notes fit into? You know, if you can't think of one, maybe you're wrong. But if you think, well, a 5/7 chord would incorporate both of those, then on the next listen, you can ask yourself, was that a 5/7 chord?
Theory brain.
It absolutely was, right? Yeah, theory brain. Right, you know, and you say, well, one chord can fit into both of those, one chord that we know very well, right? Mm-hmm. And it does indeed sound like a 5/7 chord to me. Moving to 1.
So just to recap, we have a 1, 4, 5/7 to 1. Pretty easy. Well,
yeah.
Where I am right now. It might not be to some, but it'll get there.
You will definitely get there. Let's try something different this time.
All right.
So let's just do this.
Love it.
Yeah, great, isn't it?
Not quite sure what it actually. I think I have some ideas.
That's good. I should say though, even when you have ideas, it's beneficial to go through the steps.
Okay.
You'll get really fast at these sort of self-analytical steps after you've done them enough.
Okay.
But going through the steps is what confirms your ideas and makes you wrong less. Right?
So we start with the bass line then.
So we should start with the bass line.
Yeah, so what I heard was a 1, 2, 3 in the bass line.
Pretty easy, right?
Yeah.
So what did we hear in the soprano line?
One more time. Seems like it kind of walked down a scale.
Yeah, it did kind of walk down the scale. So it's very important to know what note we're starting from.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, you may be given this note, which would be helpful. But you can also always sing down that scale.
La, la, la.
So what do we think it is?
So that's the third again, huh?
That's the third again.
Okay.
So, and like you said, it sounded like we walked down that scale.
3, 2, 1.
Right? So we're going from 1 to 3 in the bass and from 3 to 1 in the soprano. Yeah, this is something we call voice exchange, right?
They're kind of working in contrary motion towards each
Right,
other.
yeah, exactly. Very, very common. One of the most common chord progressions in classical music, at least. Yeah. So we've got this nice major 1 chord, right? Not giving anything away with that, right?
Yep.
We all feel like that's 1.
Totally.
And then we've got this chord. And then we've got this chord.
Okay,
right?
okay.
And what do we suspect this chord is?
I feel like we went back to the 1 chord again.
We did go back to the 1 chord, but it's a little less stable because the third of that chord is in the bass, right?
Okay.
So this is a 1/6.
First inversion.
Yeah, first inversion 1 chord. So now you can hear that that's a 1 chord,
Absolutely.
but it's got the scale degree 3 in the bass, which makes it a little unstable, right? Yeah.
So we just need to figure out that middle chord.
So we just need to figure out that middle chord.
So I think that's major. That sounds major.
You said it sounds like a major chord?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I agree.
And since we know that in a major key, the 2 is a minor chord, it can't be the 2 chord.
It's not a 2 chord.
Even though we have that 2 in the bass. So what just happened?
So what just happened?
I'm inclined to say that we have some kind of an inverted chord.
We do indeed have an inverted chord.
I know we have the 1, the 4, the 2, and the 5 chord to choose from.
Right, yeah.
I know the 2 chord is minor.
So as much as there's a 2 in the bass and a 2 in the soprano,
It's very 2-y.
it's very 2-y, but it can't be a 2 chord because it sounded too major to be a 2 chord, right?
Right.
So what else might have scale degree 2? Doubled like that.
That would be the 5 chord.
Yeah.
Because the 4 is 4, 6, 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, yeah. The 4 is 4, 6, 1. The 5 chord, however, is 5, 7, and 2. Right? And this turns out to be a very common chord progression in general. This is what we would call a passing 6/4 chord. So this is a 5/6/4 chord, and 6/4 chords are considered unstable. So you kind of have to explain what you're talking about when you label anything 6/4.
Huh.
In this case, it is a passing 6/4 in that it passes from, right? That's kind of passing tone motion. Right? Passing tone over which we have a 5 chord in second inversion, moving back to this 1/6.
Okay, so we're referring to the second chord here as far as the passing tone is
Yeah.
concerned. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So 1, 5/6/4, 1/6. Very common progression, right?
Cool.
Very common way to, and like I said, we use inversions in part so we can write neat bass lines that go, like that. And yeah, this is very, very, very common way to get to scale degree 3 in the bass, and there you could conceivably keep going, and then play like a 4 chord, and then
Right, yeah.
and so my bass line managed to go
Beautiful. Just right up to scale.
Yeah. That's what's neat about inversions. It lets you write bass lines that make a little bit more sense than although that does actually make sense to me because but that's probably exposure.
But you color something differently just to keep it interesting from time to time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that 6/4 chord could also be a 4/2, which would do what, Jeremy?
6/4. Now a 4/2, that's the 7th chord in second inversion?
Right. So we could have a 5/7 chord in second inversion, which would be a 5/4/2, and would sound hear how it was just a little crunchier that time? So what I played originally, and if I make that passing chord a 5/7 chord, just get that little extra crunchiness in it.
Yeah.
Right?
There's just a seventh-ness that you'll get to kind of used to knowing.
Yeah.
And kind of hearing whatever voice it's in.
Yeah, the sort of the crunchiness that is the 7th chord. Listen for. Ask yourself how bright and clear was that chord versus how little bit crunchy was it. right? And when we get into fully diminished chords, those can be even crunchier, right?
Very much.
Yeah.
Matt,
Yes.
I feel like we've been kind of unfair to our minor key signatures.
Our minor key signatures? Yeah, maybe we have just a little bit. It's important to realize, I suppose, that in minor keys, all of these same sort of principles are still going to apply. Your little process for figuring stuff out still going to be there. Right? I could play a progression like the ones we've been doing in a minor key. It'll work equally as well. So I'll be in C minor.
Okay.
How about that? And I will go.
Hey.
And from there go.
So you were inverting that bass line all the way up. You kind of walked all the way up to scale.
I did.
And then it went
That was
back
pretty
down
cool,
to the
wasn't
low
it?
5, yeah.
Yeah. And you'll learn to hear this octave jump on scale degree 5 from scale degree 5 to scale degree 5 to 1. That is common to the point of being cliched.
Yeah, very common. I agree.
Oh yeah. So what did I do there, Jeremy? Assuming I can do it again.
Well, there was a lot of chords there.
There were a lot of chords.
I do know that the first 3, I think, were what you were doing earlier. It's the 1 to the 5.
So what kind of 5 is that?
That would be a 5 in second inversion.
Or a 5 or 5/7.
5/7, right.
So yeah, so passing 5/4/2.
5/4/2.
1/6, right? You got scale degree minor 3
Yes,
in the bass.
yes.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about that being 3. I mean, 3 doesn't happen that often, and when it does, you'll know it.
Okay.
If I had gone to 3 there,
Yes.
yeah, you would know that.
There's
right?
something very, very obvious that happens when
Yeah.
you're switching. And the same thing in the major key. If you hear the 3 chord, that's a minor. So
Yeah,
it's like
you
almost shifted keys. it
Yeah,
feels
you'll
like.
know it if you hit a 3 chord, and that's frankly not as likely as
Yeah,
6. Right? So
sadly.
5. So 1, 5. And what kind of 5 is that?
That would be a second inversion.
Yes.
Because we have scale degree 2 in the bass.
Right.
Okay.
5 or 5/7.
Or 5/7.
Yeah. So 5/7. So
Because there's a crunchiness.
yeah, because of the crunchiness. Right. Yeah. Going to 1/6.
There's a 1 chord with the 3 in the bass. So
Right.
The bass is just
And-
walking right up the scale.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about that being 3.
Right.
When 3 happens, you'll know it. It's very obvious, and frankly, it's not super likely what's going to happen. Right. 2. Bass is continuing to walk up the scale, right? So we've got 4,
Oh, okay.
and we've got 4 up here in the soprano.
Very 4-ish. And we're in a minor key, and it's a minor chord.
Right.
So in the key of C minor,
Yes.
the 4 is going to be that F minor.
Right.
And that's what I think is going on here.
Root position 4 chord.
Yeah.
Very nice. Root position 4 chord indeed. Moving to a very kind of special type of 5 chord, right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And then moving on, that's pretty simple. But what's going on here?
Well, we got a 5 chord with the 5th in the bass. I'm sorry. No, the root is in the bass.
Yeah.
So
What I'm looking for here is this. Does that sound like 5 to you?
no.
Yeah.
It's a very special 5 chord because it's not a 5 chord.
But it is.
Oh, what's
but it's
going on,
not,
Matt? What's going on?
But it is. This is our This is our. If you were to label this chord, it would be a 1-6-4, right?
Aha.
Yeah. A 1 in second inversion, which moves to 5, right? Yeah. Or however I voiced that before, which moves to 5, and then back to 1. And so we've got this 1-6-4. This is another kind of 6-4 chord called a cadential 6-4.
Yeah.
Happens in perfect authentic cadences and imperfect authentic cadences, right? And potentially half cadences, I suppose, in which this is immediately followed by the 5 chord. Yeah, and again, this is even more common than anything else we've been talking about. This is, I mean, I defy you to find a piece that doesn't have at least one of these in it.
in the classic genre, right?
In the classic genre, yeah. Don't start giving me, Led Zeppelin pieces with no cadential 6-4.
I found this Bjork piece that is in the Locrian mode, and
right. In the classical genre, I defy you to find a piece.
Well, let me spend a little bit of time on this, because what's happening here is I'm hearing a 1 chord, but I'm thinking a 5 chord.
Yeah. Now, why do you think that is?
Well, it was a 1 chord with a 5th in the bass.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And
I guess maybe there's a harmony in there that adds a little bit of crunchiness because of that.
Yeah.
But it's not that 4th.
And this is something that's really controversial. Well, not really controversial, but this is something that people can have problems with. This actually kind of is a 5 chord. Now, if you're being kind of an uninsightful theory student and thinking vertically, you want to spell that as 1-6-4 because it's C, E flat, and G, and there's a G in the bass, right? But the truth is, if you're thinking melodically, my 2 inner voices here, over 5, are actually two suspensions, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they're a 4-3 suspension, and what's the other one? A 6-5 suspension. So it really, you're thinking 5 chord because it really is a 5 chord. It's just a 5 chord with 2 suspensions in it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very
Well, that
strange.
soprano note is just hanging out on 5 and not doing anything.
Uh-huh.
Really confusing. Like I say, if you're thinking vertically, you want to label that 1-6-4.
Yes.
And people will label that 1-6-4 all the time. But as you yourself realize, you think 5 when you hear that chord, and it's because that chord really is 5.
Interesting.
It's really 5-6-4 to 5-3.
So
If you were labeling out figured bass, because it's a chord with a 4-3 suspension and a 6-5 suspension.
So if we weren't thinking vertically, as we sometimes do, we could actually see that whole thing as 1 5 chord.
Right.
Is a single 5 chord.
Yeah, and in terms of hearing this in music or hearing this in harmonic dictation, this is really simple stuff in that, because you will get so used to hearing this, it ends almost everything.
Because it's like a 5 that gets even 5-ier.
Yeah,
To
it's
me,
like
that's what it's like.
it makes it even stronger pull to end on 1. That pull is so strong that once you do this, it is almost impossible to not go back to 1.
Okay, cool. Now, since we're in the minor key, you mentioned something earlier that I think we should give the students a listen.
Okay.
You said that if that was a 3 chord, we would know it.
Yes. So you want me to do a 3 chord?
In the minor.
In terms of, all right, so I'll play that same thing. I will go 1, passing 5-4-2, and this time instead of 1-6, I'm going to go 3.
So that 3 is in the bass, and on top of it is the 3 major chord.
Almost impossible, right?
I
Almost
definitely heard
impossible
something.
to miss.
I feel like we leaped into another county.
Realm, yeah?
Yeah.
It's really easy in actual music. You'll see this kind of thing sort of affect, kind of a modulation to the relative major, right? Because you'll see, and then from there, kind of like, then be in the relative major. Because those two things share a key signature, it's really easy to get back and forth. Point is, if you hear 3, you'll know about it. In the course of harmonic dictations, it's really not even super likely to hear that happen.
So oftentimes when you're in a minor key, you heard this 3, you feel like you've modulated, as you said, or changed key to the relative major of that third.
Almost
Every time. Yeah. Can we hear what that would sound like if you were to do it in major? If we had that 3 chord happening in a major key?
Yeah, so let's see. We'll be back in G for a minute. Did I do that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a little more awkward there, and in the major key, and really unlikely to happen in a harmonic dictation.
Yeah. It didn't stick out like a sore thumb like it did in the minor key.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, that's just something to keep your ears out for, also, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe. Well, you know that I guess the main thing is that you know the difference and understand the difference between a 3 chord and a
1/6 chord.
1/6 chord.
And in a more general way, understand the difference between root position chords and inversions that have the same note in the bass. And the way to do that, the two most effective ways to do that is to listen to the quality of that chord. Know what chords are what quality and what scale, so you can differentiate.
Mm-hmm.
And also sort of engage your theory brain a little bit and think, well, 1 to 5/6/4 to 1/6, super common, right? So that's probably what's going on, unless I have a good reason not to think that when you hear that kind of progression. So it's sort of detective work, being good at harmonic dictation, isn't it?
And I kind of want to point something else out, is the fact that we've arrived at all of our answers so far without even really considering the other 2 inner voices, right? For the most part. I mean, we consider them because we hear them.
We consider them because we hear them. They're what's contributing to us hearing a chord sounding minor or sounding diminished or whatever. Those inner voices are what's doing that. It's what's making the difference there. Often you will not be asked to dictate inner voices. If you are asked to dictate inner voices, my advice is get really good at singing arpeggios.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, and you don't have to be super in tune or anything, as long as you can figure out what the quality of that chord is, and where those, and hear that perfect fourth in the inner voices. So and just imagine hearing it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Heard that middle voice go down.
Yeah. In this case, the middle voice kind of did a little leap here, but.
So this is you playing what it would sound like if we sang the arpeggios in our head.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I actually don't make my students dictate inner voices.
Do other professors do that?
Potentially.
Potentially, you should be ready for it.
Should be ready for it, yes. And if your professor makes you do that, I'm sure he's got some advice for you. Go talk to him.
Why don't you, if I may ask? Why wouldn't you? Is it just kind of like is it like an unnecessarily early on challenge that just can scare away?
I never make him do it, even in Oral Skills 4.
But you're not afraid to challenge your students. I know that.
I'm not afraid to challenge them, but I'm also reasonable,
Yeah.
I think if they can hear the bass and hear the melody and understand the chord progression, they're doing pretty darn good.
Uh-huh.
So I don't personally make them do that.
Well, there's something to be said about being able to just hear it, and not actually. I mean, yeah, you're hearing it if you're dictating each voice, you're hearing it, but it's something to be able to hear it as a unit.
Yeah.
So there are times I think where thinking about it as vertical versus harmonic might be beneficial from different approaches.
Maybe yeah. If you're thinking really vertically, you'll be good at the inner voices.
Mm-hmm.
Once you can sort of zero in on what that tenor voice is doing, you'll hear what it's doing.
Cool.
So,
but we've been using a lot of our theory brain just determining major from minor, and then relying on the bass and the soprano voice.
Yeah,
to
and
kinda
theory
carry.
brain can inform you about your inner voices too. Once you determine that it's a minor chord, it's like, well, where would that inner voice have gone to make that chord without creating parallel fifths and things, and octaves and yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Make of that what you will. Want to do another one?
All right, man, hit me. I'm
All
ready.
right, let's do another one. So we're going to be in G for a little while, huh? All right. And let's just incorporate some things we've learned, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So we're in G major.
Okay.
And, any oral skills teacher who's not a complete sadist will set you up like this. And while you're setting it up, take a minute to sing do.
Uh-huh. So we're just kind of familiarizing ourselves with the key that we're in.
Yeah. Take a minute to sing do. That
That
should always be in the back of your brain. You should
Yeah.
always be able to sing back to do no matter what's happening.
That anchor point.
Yeah, take a minute to hear what note your bass is started on.
Sounds pretty doughy to me.
That's do, aka scale degree 1.
Scale degree 1.
Take a minute to listen to your soprano. Me, right?
Yeah.
AKA scale degree 3.
I sang in my head that is a third because I sang down. La la la.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And that works with any note. We keep using 3, but if that was, it would still work, right?
Uh-huh.
That's just scale degree 5. Sing down scale.
La la la. Oh, that's a harmony.
Yeah.
What's the octave of that?
In the octave that is comfortable for you. Yeah, so that's scale degree 5.
Because we went down 5.
But,
yeah.
Back to my original thing. So we know, right? So here it comes. You ready for this?
Yes, sir. Okay, I'm pretty excited about this.
Excited. Jeremy's
Because
excited.
I know I heard
Straightened up in the seat a little.
yes. I didn't feel like completely slumped and like my brows weren't furrowed. I think I'm getting somewhere here.
Okay.
I know I heard a cadential 6/4 at the end of that.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
So that's cool. Now, as far as the beginning 2 chords, the first 2 chords,
Yeah.
in the bass, I heard a 1. 1.
Yeah. So we started with 1. This is always the easiest thing. Yeah. And then
4.
yeah. So
this is the chord in question right here. So
this is the chord. Yeah, this is sort of the chord in question.
So let me analyze
And then,
this.
like you said, we moved to what clearly sounded like cadential 6. Yeah, 1/6/4
1/6/4
to 5. So cadential 6/4 motion.
Okay.
Yeah. And also take note of the soprano here that. Right?
Which we decided was on the 5, right?
Yeah. We're just sort of switching what chord tone we're on. That cadential 6/4, we doesn't mean anything, but you're going to be asked to dictate that, so keep in mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we had another one of those counter melodies happening.
Yeah.
Whatever called-
Kind of.
Contrary-ish motion.
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll get used to hearing that, trust me.
Uh-huh.
So, our chord in question.
Okay. Yeah, okay. There's something minor happening. This is not a major chord.
Right. Very minor.
And there's something going beyond the minor, too. There's a 7 in there, isn't there?
You hear that crunchiness,
I heard
right?
the crunchiness.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
now we have the bass line has got the scale degree 4 in it, but we know we're on a 2 chord because of that minor quality, and we know it's a 7 chord. So I'm thinking that this is going to be a 2 chord in first inversion.
very nice. Very nice.
Which would be actually a 2/7 chord, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
in
2/7 chord in first inversion, aka 2/6/5
2/6/5.
to cadential 6/4.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
Shall I prattle it out?
All right.
So we got the 1 chord.
1,
Then we got a 2-6-5.
2, 6, 5.
2-7 chord in first inversion.
Right.
And then we got ourselves that 1-6-4 chord.
1, 6, 4, which is really a 5 chord.
Right. So cadential 6-4 chord.
Cadential 6, 4.
And then we had a straight up 5.
5. Is that a 5 or a 5, 7?
I think that's a 5. I don't hear
Yeah,
crunchy.
I can't fool you, man.
Yeah, I don't hear crunchy.
Good old, yeah, don't hear crunchy. That's good old 5.
No nuts in that peanut butter.
Yeah.
There are nuts in peanut butter. I know that. No crunchy nuts in peanut butter.
No crunchiness in that.
Back to the
this
peanut
is
butter.
creamy peanut butter. and then after that straight up 5, we went back to 1, right?
Yeah.
That was fairly obvious.
Very cool.
Yeah. Nice stuff, right? Doing pretty good at this. That was a fairly complicated harmonic progression there, huh?
It was. When you start adding those 7th chords in there, things get really sometimes kind of muddy.
Yeah, things get. That's why it's always important to, number 1, don't panic. Never panic in oral skills. It's not going to do you any favors.
Well, that's just going to happen, I think. How can we really just... It'll be okay, guys. I'm petting you. I'm petting you on the head right now.
Nevertheless, rule number 1, don't panic.
Okay.
Never panic. Keep your sort of mental process straight. You know, start out by figuring out the bass line. Move to figuring out the soprano line. At that point, a lot of things will sound fairly obvious. Listen for chord qualities. You know, and some people have trouble with hearing chord qualities in the middle chord in a progression.
Sure.
You know? If you're one of those people, sing through the progression in your head. When you get to that chord, arpeggiate that chord in your head. It'll be more obvious to you than you think.
Yeah.
You know, engage your theory brain. You know, if we're in a major key and this was a minor chord there, then maybe it was a 2 chord.
Right.
You know, if it was major, then maybe it was a 4 chord. You know, if we're in a minor key and it was diminished, definitely probably a 2 chord. Right?
Which might be, again, a little more challenging to hear in the context of the other chords, right?
Yeah.
Even though a diminished chord is
It's pretty crunchy.
stands out like a sore thumb, but in a minor key...
Yeah. Sing it in your head.
Yeah.
Arpeggiate that chord in your head. Right? If it, you know, and then, like I said, if you arpeggiate in your head, it will sound diminished to you. Think about crunchiness, 5 or 5, 7. You know, was it a beautiful, pure, clean 5 chord, or was there a little crunchiness involved? Same thing with, you know, the 2 chord, 2 and the 2-7 chord. And we didn't really do a 4-7 chord. Those things are less common, but they can happen. You know, but the same principles apply.
Yeah.
You know, so just think about those things. You know, and keep that mental process in your straight in your head. Ask yourself these things. Don't panic and start writing crap. Don't try to listen to the chord and just guess, just based on the overall dissonance level. Say, well, I think that was, I don't know, 2-6-5 or something. You know, because it could have been a 5-7 chord. You know, keep that mental process straight. Even if you think it's easy, still go through those mental processes. Make sure you didn't jump to conclusions.
Right.
You know, and you'll be fine. Practice. There's only one way to really get good at this, and it's to practice it.
And I think avoiding panicking in the first place will help to
Never panic.
Will help to avoid some of those other behaviors that could also
absolutely
mess you up.
Yeah, that's why That's why rule number 1 is don't panic. Because then once you panic, you go, oh, I don't know, you know, and then you just kind of start writing stuff that sounds vaguely right. You know? And that's when you mess up.
It's such a simple thing to tell somebody. No one ever told me not to panic, and maybe I could have heard that a few times. Maybe I could have. I don't know. There's just never been a time where I said, well, thank God I panicked.
Yeah. Don't panic at anything. That is my rule number 1, not just for harmonic dictation, but for all school and most of life.
I would agree.
I used to say that about waiting tables. Never panic. Never panic.
So much can go wrong there.
So much can go wrong. And more will go wrong if you panic. Believe me.
Well, I think we've kind of identified all the chords that we intended to for this episode.
Yeah,
so
kind
far.
of push us forward a little bit with
Okay.
our harmonic dictation.
So we got that one chord we already know very well.
Yes,
Now we have this 2/7 chord.
2/7 chord. Usually it's a 2/6/5, especially in your beginning dictation.
Okay, so it'll
Yeah,
be
stuff.
inverted. And
Yep.
then we had the 4 chord. Always,
Always there.
I guess in the key of major, it'll be major. In the key of minor, it'll be minor.
Right,
We'll have
right,
that-
yeah.
If you hear that scale degree, yeah, that's plenty to say about the 4, right?
Yeah.
And then we got the 5/7 chord now.
Yeah,
can also
5/7 chord. 5 versus 5/7.
Uh-huh. And then we talked about how the cadential 1/6/4 can actually behave and actually be considered a part of the 5 chord function.
Exactly, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, let's give it one more listen.
And don't forget the passing 6/4s.
The passing 6/4s, yes.
Yeah, and the passing 4/2s.
Did we give those enough attention, you think?
Yeah, they're in an exercise. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And so before we do this last one, I just want to remind us of what we should be doing if we are actually in a classroom environment
Right.
and taking a harmonic dictation
Yes.
course.
So I'm just going to give a random example here.
And as we give this example, we want to let's pretend like we have 4 listens and how we're going to budget those wisely, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So first listen,
First listen,
we're kind of listening for the bass.
bass line, and if you feel like you can make some guesses about the soprano line too. Yeah.
Okay. Second listen,
Soprano line.
it's all about the melody, the
Yeah,
soprano
yeah.
line.
Don't feel afraid to get ahead if you feel like you can handle it. So yeah, it's all about the soprano line. Start sort of thinking about the harmonies, the chord qualities.
Okay, so then we have our third listen. where
Third listen is all about those qualities, all about putting down some numbers with some figured bass.
Okay.
Right?
And trying to listen for whether it's a major or minor, like you're saying, the qualities.
Yeah. And then hopefully fourth listen is just confirm everything we think.
Confirmation, still maybe using a little bit of that theory brain to aid in that confirmation.
Yeah,
but
use it a little theory brain, touch up some things. Yeah.
theory brain kind of pops up in the third listen. Or hopefully throughout the whole thing, right?
Hopefully your theory brain is your brain.
Is your brain, yeah. That's what we're working for.
Yep.
Okay, so with those guidelines in mind, let's give it another
All right.
exercise.
And I'll pick something really mean. Let's say I'm in A minor now. Right? So with our setup, we should be singing do in our head. Should be thinking about the note of the bass and the soprano.
I feel like this is do.
Yes. And then the soprano.
Yeah, 3.
Yeah,
Because I could walk down to 1 from it.
absolutely.
You know how useful that tip has been? I mean, that's really been huge.
I know, right?
Yep.
Sing down the scale. You'll land yourself on the right note.
Okay,
All right.
so first chord we know we have 1.
First chord's 1. There's going to be 1.
Uh-huh.
Here comes the thing. You ready for the thing?
The thing.
Yeah.
Bring the thing.
Bringing the thing. So I hope I'm bringing the thing. Let me make sure I'm bringing the thing.
Okay, I'm ashamed to say that I was not really regarding the soprano voice a lot, but I nailed the bass.
All right. What was the bass
we went
doing?
straight up the scale. We went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, lower 5, 1.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Good start.
Very good start. Let's try this again.
With
See
the
if we can get
soprano.
that soprano line going.
Starting from the 3.
Starting from the 3.
Haha. Okay, this goes back to what you're talking about when you think you lost that note.
Yeah.
I didn't lose it. It just didn't go anywhere.
Hey, listen to you.
So we had a 3, 2, 1, 1, 1, 7, and then 1. Okay.
Very nice.
Great.
Very nice. So it went down to 1, and then it really didn't go anywhere until that cadential motion, right? So bass and soprano together then. Pretty simple, right?
I would almost say that was a pedal tone if I didn't know that there were actually proper chord changes going on. that it was a chord tone of.
Right, yeah.
That was really cool.
Not the most exciting soprano line ever, but, you know. All right, so listen 3.
We're here to educate, not dazzle.
Yeah, exactly. So listen 3. We're listening for those chords and those qualities. And we may already, with our theory brains engaged, we may have some ideas already, right?
Yes, sir.
So here it comes.
Definitely minor. That has a... Okay, engaging my theory brain. I know I heard that cadential 6/4 chord again.
At the end.
At the very end.
Yeah, go ahead, and you can go ahead and put that down if it makes you feel better. Put
Even
down
though-
what's obvious and what you know so that you'll at least get that.
Even though I'm kind of going out of sequence, right?
Yeah, but you know, who cares? And we definitely started on a 1 chord.
We know that.
Yeah, can I play a 1 chord? I don't know. Here we go. So we definitely started on a 1 chord.
Uh-huh.
So,
And we know that bass line is walking right up the scale.
Mm-hmm.
So the second chord is going to be that. So this is the chord in question.
This is one of the chords in question.
And I think we got that 2 in the bass. And it sounds it sounds diminished. It really does.
Yeah, it does sound diminished. So what do you think?
So I'm thinking that's got to be, in a minor key, that's going to be a 2 chord.
Yeah, possibly.
Possibly the 7, but we haven't really gotten into that yet. Or we might be hearing something that could belong to a 5/7 chord, but it sounds more minorish. It sounds like more flatty,
Yeah.
crunchy.
Yep.
Flatty. Okay.
So we want to call that 2/7?
I'm thinking 2/6/5.
Except that
No, except the 2's in the bass. Okay.
theory brain.
Yes, 2/7. No.
2/7. Kind of messed you up, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Another minor chord
Another minor chord.
with a 3 in the bass.
3 in the bass.
So I'm starting to think. Oh, back to 1.
1/6.
Right, because it wouldn't be the 5, it wouldn't be the 4, because the 3's in the bass.
Yeah. See, you're engaging your theory brain and how well that works.
Yes, sir. And that sounds to me like a 5/7 chord.
Well, we're not quite there yet.
Okay. Is that another 1?
So 3 in the bass. Up the next.
4.
4.
Minor.
Minor 4. It's
Yeah.
diatonic in a minor scale, right?
Yeah.
Minor 4. And then we just had that cadential motion that you mentioned.
Minor 1. 5. And again, no 7, just a 5 chord, right?
Yeah, think so.
Yeah.
See how easy this is?
Yeah. Once the process is repeated several times and explained.
Yeah, and like I said, the only way you'll really get good at this is to practice and practice and practice. But practice this mental process. Whatever you do, don't just jump in and try to write stuff.
Yeah.
Because the further along in ear training you get, the harder that will be, and the less accurate you'll be if you try that. Keep that mental process going.
And we said this many times, but I'll go ahead and say it again. Well, obviously, practice.
Yes.
But, these podcasts, the courses we're teaching, like, we just got into oral skills second semester stuff just then.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you can't cover an entire course within a 60-minute podcast. But what they do is during this time period, you're actually, at the end of each class, you're taking time in your ear training.
Yeah, we're practicing. It's not like you're going to get a new chord every day when you're taking oral skills. A lot, and the fact that from Harmonic Dictation 1 to Harmonic Dictation 2, we've gone from the beginning of the year to the end of the year ought to give you a sense of just how much you're practicing before new concepts come along, or how much you ought to be practicing anyway.
I think we'd be fools to expect to listen to one episode one time and have a perfect understanding and perfect ear training of these concepts. I
Yeah,
think
well,
gonna-
it's not going to happen.
no, it takes you need to rewind this a few times. You need to listen a few times. You need to write your own examples.
And there are a plethora of great ear training apps out there that you can get into. And we've mentioned these in previous podcasts, but Better Ears, Theoria, musictheory.net, the Gamut. There's probably others that I'm not aware of.
Oftentimes for less than $3.99 or $3.99 tops, you can get everything you need in one app to get you really far in ear training.
Yeah, really good stuff.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode.
Yep. Any questions? Email us.
You know what to do.
And there you go. Another ear training episode. Now get out there and start listening. And keep listening. For more Music Student 101.